Hey, welcome to the Last Jedi trailer analysis. Now, I am Jay Sandlin, author and historian, and the creator of the novel comics. You can find me on Twitter at JSandlinWriter, and more information on my work at thenovelcomics.com. Now let's get right into it. The Last Jedi trailer opens with a tricky perspective shot that is meant to make you believe it is showing an overhead view of Luke's island where we saw Rey hand him the lightsaber. We hear the Force theme, courtesy of John Williams, so something mystical is obviously going on. Now, the island is on the planet Ahch-To, or Ahch-To, I don't know. And it turns out that the shot was actually a patch of rock and Rey's hand slaps on the ground. Now she looks exhausted, maybe she's even afraid. Clearly, Luke is training Rey, we already know that, and it comes across to me very much like Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, namely in promising that she would encounter fear in her training. Remember, Yoda asked Luke if he would be afraid, and then he says, "You will be. You will be." Shouldn't Yoda have said, "Be you will," or something? But Luke tells Rey to breathe. Just breathe. Now, Rey does look scared, and that reminds me of Luke's Dagobah training, especially in the cave with his Force vision. So will Rey have another Force vision of her own, like Luke on Dagobah? Is that part of the Jedi trials that we've heard about, but don't really know much about? Now, the Marvel Comics Star Wars run and the new set of novels since 2014 are considered canon to this movie, meaning they're part of the same storyline. We know a little bit about Luke from the books. In the novel Bloodlines, the Republic Senate said that Luke Skywalker had lived a private life since the Battle of Endor. Now, what we do know about Luke after Return of the Jedi comes from the Marvel Comics and Han's lines in The Force Awakens. Now, these sources consistently say that Luke was training the next generation of Jedi until one went bad, and then said that Luke vanished to find the first Jedi temple. Now, did he find it on this island? I would say yes. Luke asks Rey, "What do you see?" Rey responds and says, "Light." Then we see a shot that reminds me of the old school Galactic Empire. We see Kylo Ren from behind, and his theme music plays. Then Rey says, "Darkness." Obviously, Kylo represents the darkness, or the imbalance, maybe, of the Force. And very importantly, we see Kylo Ren's trademark mask has been shattered, much to the chagrin of cosplayers everywhere. What does it mean that the mask has been shattered? The mask was designed as an homage to Vader. We know that Kylo is obsessed with his grandfather. Is destroying the mask a sign that he's no longer a Vader fanboy? Does he still have Vader's melted mask? I have no idea where he would even have the mask or why he would have the mask at this point in the story. We last saw the mask when he took it off to speak to his father, Han Solo, on Starkiller Base. Obviously, that didn't turn out so well. After that, he was shot by Chewbacca in the leg with a bowcaster, the building was blown up, and then the planet split apart. I'm not sure who went back to recover this mask. But we know he didn't have the mask when he fought Rey and Finn at the end of the film's lightsaber fight. The planet was being destroyed. How did they even get the mask back? Rey then refers to seeing the balance. Now, this is accompanied by a shot of some very old books, which I like because I love books. If this really is the first Jedi Temple, then these books would date back to the founding of the Order itself. That would be millennia. We know the Jedi are old in the Star Wars galaxy far, far away. Now, the hand looking at the book is almost touching what is a faded Jedi logo from antiquity. We see this in the prequel trilogy. Rey refers to the balance, and of course we think about the prophecy of the Chosen One, and the one who will bring the balance to the Force, whatever that means. That was believed to be Anakin Skywalker, Luke's father, who turned to Darth Vader. And Yoda said in Episode 3 that the prophecy may have been misread. So has Luke spent his life seeking the first Jedi teachings to find out what the prophecy really meant? Before we can contemplate more philosophical issues, we see my favorite shot of the trailer, and that's some Jedi training. We see Luke watching Rey practice with the blue lightsaber in the distance. Now, the blue lightsaber is a family heirloom, an antique, and a historical relic. Honestly, I say it's a weapon of dark intentions. It was built by Anakin Skywalker decades before this movie during the Clone Wars. It's less of a piece of technology, it's more like a samurai ancient katana passed down from warrior to warrior. Now, Anakin built it after his fight with Darth Tyrannus. He decided to focus his lightsaber style on Form 5. That's a power-based dueling form. And Luke uses this form as well. He largely makes his lightsaber style a mimicry of his father's style when they fight on Bespin and then Endor. From what we can see of Rey, she's practicing these large, powerful sweeping strikes. Maybe she will be a Form 5 user as well, like her teacher. But this lightsaber itself is familiar to Star Wars fans, but it's also familiar to fans of cinematography. It was used as a part of a Graflex camera, and you can see it in a lot of old movies where they take photos and they hold it like that. And then we see shots of what looks to be a new kind of starfighter. It appears to be for the Resistance. It reminded me of the B-Wing, which from Star Wars Rebels we learned was designed by a Mon Calamari named Quarry, based on Ralph McQuarrie, and it was first called the Blade Wing. I'm not sure what type of red chemical it's dragging behind in the entrails and contrails, but it reminds me of Bush pilots trying to inspire rain back in the Dust Bowl. So, then we see some quick shots of the ever-cute BB-8 and Poe. Finn is in some sort of medical capsule. I hope he's not there too long. I would like to see Finn and hope he and Poe have a relationship of some sort. Hey, speaking of Finn, now his custom-colored, tricked-out X-Wing looks like it gets destroyed, the black and the gold. We know what that means. More toys to sell. Then we see another shot of Kylo Ren with his trademark lightsaber. Now, this saber always reminded me of a Crusader-style sword from history. Kylo and the Knights of Ren sort of performed their own crusades or inquisition to exterminate the Jedi. I always thought that was the influence for Kylo Ren's lightsaber. And from Star Wars Rebels, we learned that the style of lightsaber Kylo used was in use as early as the Scourge of Malachor battle. Now, that was thousands of years before The Force Awakens. My friend Lucy and I also talked about how he got the design, and I suggested it came from the archives of the Empire. Kylo already alluded to using them in The Force Awakens to find the star charts to find Luke. And the designs may have called for a specific crystal, in this case the Kyber crystals. I imagine Kyber crystals are hard to come by in Kylo Ren's time, and he's using a cracked crystal because that's all he has access to, and that's why the blade has the unsteady appearance. Now, I've looked at the hilt, and I'm surprised a Jedi, Sith, Knight of Ren, or even someone off the street would use a lightsaber with exposed wiring. But Kylo looks as pretty as ever. A lot of people wondered if he would have cyborg parts after he got his face slashed by Rey. Obviously, the First Order has a good plastic surgeon. And he has to stay pretty looking because I believe he ultimately becomes a hero. Then we see a quick shot of R2-D2 and a cloaked figure. They're watching a building burn. I'm going to guess this is a flashback to when Kylo and the Knights of Ren wiped out the Jedi, and Luke watched it, and that means he arrived too late to save it. Because let's be honest, Luke would have taken out the Knights of Ren by himself if he had been around. These guys are not fully trained. We see that Kylo's the master of the Knights of Ren, and he's taken out by Rey who has no Jedi training. Now, Luke would not have let his students be slaughtered like we saw in the Force vision from the previous film. Then there's some more quick shots. We see Captain Phasma is leading the troops. And for everyone that thought Captain Phasma was underwhelming or underused in the first film, to those people, I say, have you ever actually counted Boba Fett's screen time in the original trilogy? And then the next shot shows an epic space battle. There's a brief glimpse of the A-Wing starfighter for the first time in the sequel trilogy. A-Wing fighters are cheaply made, so they suited the Rebellion well in the early days. And from Star Wars Rebels, we learned that the A-Wings and the Y-Wing bombers were the original backbone of the fledgling alliance. A-Wings are built for speed, 2 Novadex engines, a cockpit, 2 laser cannons, and concussion missiles. Very little in the way of armor, life support, or anything like that. Now, the starfighters accompanying it could be some form of capital ship, but they also reminded me of B-Wings as well. We learned from Rebels that the B-Wing was designed to break through blockades of ships. If we see them on screen do what they did in Star Wars Rebels, just check out that episode, Wings of the Master, where the prototype B-Wing took out an Imperial blockade all on its own. Alright, so then Luke drops his bombshell. In Return of the Jedi, Luke boldly proclaimed, "I am a Jedi, like my father before me." Now, decades later, he says in the trailer, "I only know of one truth. It is time for the Jedi to end." So my speculation, Luke's journey after the destruction of his students led him to a conclusion about the prophecy. He believes the Jedi were fundamentally flawed and must end just like the Sith Lords did. I also noticed that Luke is rocking the Jedi mullet, much like his father before him. Obi-Wan first had the Jedi mullet in Episode 2, then his father had it sort of in Episode 3, and now Luke has inherited the mantle. Sorry, Daisy Ridley, you might have some bad costume notes later. But Luke's words mean he's not training Rey to be a Jedi at all. So what is she? Is Luke starting a new Force order? How does the Chosen One prophecy fall into things? Who are Rey's parents? Hey, I hope you'll find out with me in December when The Last Jedi comes to theaters. If you like this video, I'll do another one as the trailers come out, so please let me know. Visit me on Twitter at @JSandlinWriter. Keep track of my podcast and the things I'm doing for the book tour at jsandlinwriter.com. My book comes out this month, Outbreak Mutiny, the first release of my company, The Novel Comics. The story is alternate history with superheroes. That'll be coming in the end of April. Thank you very much.